Let's talk about some additional standouts from Sunday's game against the Saints. Tight end Jody Fortson being placed on season-ending IR, and a couple of injuries to some standout receivers such as Nikko Remigio and Justyn Ross. But first, how about those? First up, former Chief alert news. Darrel Williams, the former Chiefs running back who had over 1,000 yards from scrimmage and 8 touchdowns back in 2021, signed with the Saints yesterday, which makes sense because Saints running back Kendre Miller sprained his knee in that preseason game against the Chiefs, and a month ago, Eno Benjamin tore his Achilles. So I am happy for Darrel, who played for the Chiefs for 4 years before heading to Arizona in 2022 and now finds himself with the Saints, joining other former Chiefs like Tyrann Mathieu and Colin Saunders. And then after former Chiefs running back Darrel Williams signed to the Raiders on Friday, they turned around and signed another former Chiefs running back in Darwin Thompson. So in the span of roughly 24 hours, the Las Vegas Raiders signed both Darrel Williams and Darwin Thompson. I mean, I understand Josh Jacobs and the whole holdout thing is affecting things, but a couple interesting signings to say the least. Next up, here's a little additional info and stats from Sunday's game. Andy Reid spoke afterwards and said this regarding the first team offense and first team defense. Quote, "We got to pick up the tempo there on both sides of the ball. Not good enough. So we got some things to work on there." He was impressed with the young guys though, the 2s and the 3s. However, he noted that you can't end with a mistake. Quote, "It's a terrible way to end the thing." And yeah, it was terrible. Talking about the game-ending interception that Chris O threw, but it was also pretty funny, all things considered. Definitely a wild ending to a preseason game, aka a glorified scrimmage, that's for sure. And then regarding the tight end sneak on 4th and 1 that failed, coach said they are trying to work on it and get better at it. It's just something you can't really work on at camp, but it obviously didn't work in the game, so they'll have to go back to the drawing board on that. And Geoff Schwartz noted with his lunch spoon, nice spoon, that the Saints were overloaded on the right side and Bell should have went left for an easy first down. But hey, that's why they work on this stuff in preseason, and also Bell was injured for nearly all of last season, so there's some rust to knock off there for sure. Regardless, I'm not sure how much I want to see that stupid play ever again. Anyway, Coach Reid then shared how the reps for the new guys is so valuable to them. Not just a small amount of reps, but at least enough for a series or two. He felt for the most part, both rookies, FAU and Rashee Rice held their own. And that's where I want to park the car here for a moment and talk snap counts from Sunday's game. Tight end Matt Bushman actually led all tight ends in total snaps on offense with 36, as well as had the most special team snaps of anyone on the team, I believe, with 12. Some of the snap count leaders were Wanya Morris, who had 46. I like that. The Chiefs are working him in on both sides, just trying to see what they have in Wanye. Mike Caliendo and Darian Kennard both had 35. Prince Tega Wanogho had 29. Buechele had 28. And on defense, FAU had 34. Echo Boydo and Caleb Halassi had 33. Mike Edwards had 32. Malik Herring had 31, and the list goes on. But some of these guys are fighting for roster spots, certainly, and the more reps they get, the more they can put on tape, and the more chances they have to show what they've got out there on the field. On the flip side, snap counts can also tell another story entirely for some of those who have the least amount of snaps. For example, wide receiver Justin Watson only played 5 total snaps with the ones, the same amount as Travis Kelce, which tells me that the Chiefs already know what they have in Watson, sure, but also that it's looking more positive he makes the 53-man roster, which I already had him on, but his chances just went up even more today, potentially with some of the injuries at practice. More on that in a bit though, because as far as injuries sustained in that Saints game, I believe Mike Edwards, Nick Jones, and Anthony Witherstone, all defensive backs oddly enough, were the only 3 who were injured. Andy Reid shared today that Mike Edwards' foot/ankle swelled up a bit. The x-ray looks good and all that, but he got stepped on, so they will see how things look for him here soon. Nick Jones fractured a couple fingers and saw a specialist about them today, I believe, so update pending on Nick Jones. Then Anthony Witherstone sprained his toe, and the Chiefs actually waived Anthony to make room for a couple more players that I'll get to here in a bit, as well as some additional injuries that happened at today's training camp practice number 17 that we definitely need to talk about. But first, the list of players who are not a surprise that didn't practice today were L'Jarius Sneed, who is still dealing with that aggravated knee and has missed over a week of practices already, although Big Red said today that Sneed will get back. They're just taking things slow, but noted that Sneed will be back sooner rather than later, so that's a bit of a positive at least. Kadarius Toney is still out recovering from that knee cleanup. Defensive tackle Turk Wharton missed his second day of practice in a row now due to some minor setback in his knee that he just came off the PUP list for. Safety Mike Edwards obviously didn't practice due to the swelling in his feet. Nick Jones, fractured fingers. And then tight end Jody Fortson once again didn't practice due to dislocating his shoulder a few weeks ago at camp. And it was sadly reported today that Jody Fortson is being placed on IR for the season, as it was revealed he's going to need shoulder surgery after popping it out. And that makes for the third year in a row now that Fortson has been placed on IR and might honestly spell the end of his career here in Kansas City. Remember, back in week 6 of the 2021 season, he tore his Achilles, then was placed on IR for the year, then was placed on IR in 2022 after dislocating his elbow. And though he did return, it made for a short season for him. And then in training camp this year, he now needs shoulder surgery and is out for the entirety of the season. A tough break for Jody Fortson, a fan favorite who many hoped would contribute heavily in the tight end room this year. And with Fortson being out, the question now is, what do the Chiefs do in the tight end room? Do they now just roll with 3? Kelsey, Gray, and Bell? Or what about Matt Bushman? Does he make the push and they roll with 4 instead? Some are even saying with Blake Bell being a veteran, the Chiefs could cut him and sign him to the practice squad if he agreed, as he wouldn't have to clear waivers and would in turn be around as a valuable depth piece. We'll see if that happens, but as of right now, Andy really loves his veteran players, and I'm currently unsure what is going to happen there in the tight end room, but you guys got to let me know your thoughts. Do you think the Chiefs roll with 4 tight ends? 3? Will Matt Bushman make it? Maybe somebody else? Let me know in the comments down below. And with Fortson being placed on IR and defensive back Anthony Witherstone getting waived, the Chiefs did add a couple of players to the roster today. They added linebacker Olakunle Fatu-Kazi. That was a lot. And cornerback Darrel Williams. Darrel Williams is actually a KC native who played high school ball at St. Thomas Aquinas and ended up going undrafted in 2022, playing in the preseason for the Rams last year and signed with the Bucs practice squad in January. And with the defensive back injuries continuing to pile up, the Chiefs add some depth here today. As for linebacker Olakunle Fatu-Kazi, he's also an undrafted player out of Rutgers who spent some time with the Bucs, Broncos, and most recently the Patriots this preseason before being waived. He played mainly on special teams last season, logging around 150 snaps, so he does have some experience there. Next up, we're going to have to keep the not-so-happy news rolling because another player dislocated their shoulder today at practice, with that being wide receiver Nikko Remigio, who has been standing out at training camp making multiple great catches and was also the leading receiver in Sunday's preseason game against the Saints. And I guess he made a nice diving play for a ball today in a one-on-one, making the catch, but landed awkwardly on his shoulder and was slow to get up. Ended up having to get tended to by the medical team. Either in the tent, they came to him, one or the other, but then he was for sure carted off the field while cradling/holding what I believe to be his left wrist. Andy Reid said the shoulder is indeed back in, but they'll have to see what the tests reveal first. And I really hope Remigio's shoulder is nothing serious, as he was one to watch fighting for a potential roster spot. However, if he didn't make the roster, he was performing well enough that if waived, he could be claimed by another team. Therefore, if the shoulder is a bad enough injury that requires surgery, you could see Remigio placed on IR similar to Justyn Ross last season after his foot surgery, but it's too early to tell, and I hope this injury doesn't require surgery and Nikko is able to get back out there and keep battling. And then we're not done yet because 2 more receivers left practice early today, with those being Ihmir Smith-Marsette and Justyn Ross. Smith-Marsette reportedly sustained a groin injury of sorts, not sure what grade or how long it's going to be. Hopefully we'll hear about that soon. And then Justyn Ross tweaked something in his knee, hamstring, or shin area. The exact area was unknown at the time of Andy Reid's presser, but during practice, Ross reportedly walked to the medical tent to get looked at, then ended up riding off in the cart for further testing. Big Red said that the medical staff is running tests to see what exactly is going on, and he'll let everybody know as soon as he finds out. And geez Louise, hopefully it's a minor tweak for Justyn Ross and nothing more than that. I know a lot of people, including myself, were rooting for the guy this season, and he was basically already inked into the 53-man roster, in my opinion, based on his standout plays and performances, not only from early on in training camp, but he looked great Sunday against the Saints as well. So only time's going to tell for all 3 of these guys, Nikko Remigio, Smith-Marsette, and Justyn Ross. But without knowing any real details on Ross, I'm just hoping that it's something minor and he finds himself back out there ASAP. Another player we are unsure about at the moment is Chris Jones, okay? Nothing new here, but he continues his trolling online, liking random tweets like this one from a Raiders fan that said, Chris Jones would look good in silver and black, and I strongly disagree, Chris. Quit that. And while I'm pretty sure that was merely a troll, Chris did like this tweet here from Arrowhead Live that said, if Chris Jones and his camp believed the deal wasn't going to happen, he would have ended his holdout already, in my opinion. There's absolutely no reason to continue accruing fines if a deal was dead. Maybe wishful thinking on my part, but a continued holdout just doesn't make sense in that aspect. Zach Martin just got his deal, and the whole thing was that the $1 million in fines he now owes was worth it since he got $36 million fully guaranteed. Gotta think Jones and the Cats bros have a similar philosophy. Well, Hopefully, that is indeed the case and a deal is still in the works, and Chris Jones isn't just like, man, I'm out on training camp this year because that ish is tough. I'd rather take the fines. However, according to Tony Pauline of Sportskeeda.com, sources say there's been very little communication between Chris Jones's representation and the Chiefs, and then noted that Chris Jones is looking for a contract that would match or exceed the deal signed by Aaron Donald. Well, it's already been reported by Nate Taylor of The Athletic that the Chiefs are not willing to make CJ the highest paid defensive tackle in the league, and Ian Rappaport recently said the Chiefs offered Chris Jones a quote-unquote big deal, but that deal was obviously not big enough because there's no contract signed or deal done just yet, and I am simply growing weary of it all. I don't know about you guys, but I am. I'm still hopeful a deal gets done though, but we will definitely find out one way or another here soon because Chris Jones will continue losing money every day/game he sits out, and I would think eventually here he would want as much of that $20 million base salary that's owed to him as possible if a deal does not indeed get done. He's already lost at least $1 million, maybe more. But hey, enough of this tiring situation, though you guys can let me know your thoughts on it currently if you'd like in the comments down below. I would also, though, like to know your overall concern level for today's new injuries from Nikko Remigio, Smith-Marsette, and Justyn Ross. And then finally, let me know your updated thoughts on the tight end room with Fortson being placed on IR. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?